of Homeland Security on this very issue that we're talking about here with the zero tolerance policy and the number of kids that are being held in detention. What did you hear down there today?
Well, we first heard from Congressman Scalise, who spoke to the fact that, given what had taken place there in Virginia with him and the other members of Congress, that obviously, the undermining of the law and the fact that law enforcement is on the forefront of keeping our community safe, that has to be the priority. With regard to Secretary Kirsten Nielsen, she said she made clear. She said, "Look, the federal government is no longer going to apologize for working with local law enforcement to uphold the laws of this country," and she's absolutely right. And as well, of course, there was discussion around the opioid crisis and the commitment that's going to be made. President Trump has asked for $6 billion to help local communities. Our area is one of the more difficult ones, to help us get programs in place to deal with this epidemic. But importantly as well is, of course, the issue of, you were just speaking of it on the show, about the idea that these kids were being separated from their families, and so there's a movement afoot under the current bill to punish those parents who bring these kids in. They are going to be prosecuted, and frankly, I think the idea that if you come across with kids, and keep in mind, the majority of these, the numbers have increased dramatically for the number of kids that have come across, and people have exploited this as a way to get in, and it's overtaxing our infrastructure. It's creating obviously problems for law enforcement, and so the message clearly here was, we're going to get back to the rule of law. That we can't create a special class of people who are going to be forgiven from abiding by the laws of this country, and expecting everyone else to follow the laws. It's not okay, and we shouldn't have to apologize and feel that we're the problem by upholding the laws that protect this republic.
Well, Sheriff, there are entry points along the border where people who are looking for political asylum can go to. They will be greeted by U.S. Customs officials. They'll be brought across the border with their children, and they will be kept together. The people that we're talking about here, see, we're getting this misconception from the Democrats and from the press this weekend that, as I mentioned earlier, that President Trump's sending out, the flying monkeys to round all these kids up, and just bring them to concentration camps. And that's not true. These are people who violated the law by coming over the border illegally. These are not people that are going through the process of seeking asylum.
You're exactly right. Look, they just have to go to the checkpoints. And when they go to the checkpoint, their request will be reviewed there, and they have to meet certain criteria as established in the law. But the problem is that, and I think that the number is either 80 or 83% of the people who do go there don't qualify. So that's why they know they're not going to qualify. So they're going to try to go around the law and say, look, I can't get through by abiding by their laws. So I don't meet the criteria. So I'm going to still go across and then claim asylum. And the problem is, that's why we have to have Congress change this law so that you come across, you go back. Now, Mexico and Canada, if you come across, you go right back. All the other countries, you stay. And then you have to go through a process. There's 600,000 cases right now, backlog, of people that have not had the cases heard, where they come in by not following the procedure from other countries, and they still remain in the country.
But somehow or another, we're being made to feel guilty, or they're trying to make us feel guilty anyway, between the media and the Democrats, because we are doing this. And it is nothing that, we are trying to protect our own citizens. We're trying to protect our own sovereignty, our own children. We had an alarming report out of Fox today. Thousands of DACA recipients with arrest records, including 10 accused of murders, allowed to stay in the U.S. Nearly 60,000 immigrants with arrest records, including 10 accused of murder, have been allowed to stay here under the Obama-era DACA thing. This is a serious, serious problem. If somebody brings their kids halfway across Central America to the Mexico-U.S. border and then illegally crosses the border, how are we responsible for that in terms of well, being responsible for the situation as it arises. These parents make a decision to do this with their children, so they're gambling on the safety of their kids. We have to
Right.
respond to it, but I mean, it's not something that we are going out of our way looking to pick a fight with these people over.
Not at all. And you raise an excellent point, Barry. And keep in mind, all these sort of sidebar examples and things that people throw out there about we're separating kids. The kids that are coming across they're all good kids and they're just running from things in their community, the fear of being hurt or whatever. Look, the reality is all these different issues around illegal immigration, we wouldn't even be having these discussions if we stuck to the real basic precept of what this country's about, and it's the rule of law. You can't have a democracy, and you can't have the freedoms, the protected freedoms that you otherwise would be entitled to, either through legal immigration or being born as an American citizen, if you don't have laws. And that's the underpinnings of how we have the country we have. But what's happening is it's being eroded by this idea that, well, yeah, if the laws don't really have to apply, and I thought the Secretary said it very, very well. Congress, you created these laws. Since you created these laws, now you're telling us not to enforce them. That's not how the American system works. If you don't like the law, then you change it. But in the meantime, all these liberal members of Congress who are saying, this is not, they don't care about these people, what conditions they have or anything else. They pretend they do. I've been doing this for 20 years, Barry. And I've watched every single year when immigration comes up. It boils down to one thing: politics. Which party can make the other party look worse to the immigrant community? And let me throw a wrench in the very end. It's kind of like the Palestinian-Israeli situation, where you get this peace agreement up to the doorstep, and then all of a sudden the Palestinians say, well, you know what, we want this or we want that, because they know if they throw that in there, it's a non-negotiable position that will kill the deal, because they really don't want in the end the outcome of peace. And it's the same here. These Democrats, they've been doing this they want votes. They want to appeal to the immigrant community. They've got midterm elections coming up, and we see it. You can go back and see the blueprint, Barry, all the way back to the year 2000. When I was down there, it was 20 years ago, with Barney Frank and Henry Hyde, and a bipartisan bill that got passed through the Congress. And I was told when I went to Senator Kennedy's office, I believe, or Kerry's, that look, I was lobbying to make sure it got through the Senate, and they said, nope, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. It's an election year. I'm telling you right now, it will never, ever happen. And so, this is a game that goes on, and the members down there continue to, sort of parse things and push against one another to advance a political agenda. This is not about the people. It's not about the realities of really changing immigration. This is all about politics.
No, you're absolutely right. And I reviewed this morning a number of videotapes. In fact, I included some on my blog on WBSM.com. If you get a chance later on, take a look at it. But a video of Bill Clinton himself, talking about the need to end this scourge of illegal immigration, that these people are taking our jobs and are threatening our communities, and we need to secure that border, and we need to, have a wall or a fence. Barack Obama, the same thing. Hillary Clinton, the same thing. And now these people are leading the charge against the very thing they were advocating for. So where's their credibility on this?
Well, and that underscores my point about the politics. And you're right, Barry, because if you go back, I think it's 1995, you will find an executive order that came out from President Clinton. I believe it was 95. And it was right after the Oklahoma City bombing, and he sent a directive out, an executive order out to all law enforcement, prisons, everywhere else. Look within your populations of people that you're dealing with and identify anyone who's here illegally so that they can be deported. And if you go back, you'll find that executive order from President Clinton. And here today, they would demonize President Trump, who's doing exactly what should be done by enforcing these laws and standing behind them.
But, I think the American people have gotten wise, and I think that people see through this, and I think they see through exactly what you're talking about, the politicalization of all of this, and the fact that the other side continues to put the illegal immigrants ahead of American citizens, and this is just one more case of that happening.
Yep, and Barry, I would tell you this, I really believe this. the American people need to stop fighting with each other over whether or not laws should be enforced. I think we all believe they should, and start putting the onus where it belongs. Right on. If you're telling me, if you and I were working for a company, and the boss called you and I in and said, "Listen, I want you guys to develop this initiative over the next 2 years," right? And it has several facets to it. And 2 years go by, and the boss calls us in and says, "Okay, Barry, Tom, what's the proposal? How are we going to do this?" Oh, we haven't really even started. We're just fighting over. He wants it one way, I want it the other. We're just going to fight. Do you think that boss would let you go another 18 years of nothing but fighting back and forth over nothing to do with the proposal, but over our egos of which one could look better to the boss in the end? And nothing got done because we were both more interested in that than we were in really producing the outcome. And that's what's going on. And it's wrong. And the American people need to focus their efforts and tell Congress, look, you work for me. Okay, you work for my family. You work for this country to make sure that our laws are enforced, that our rights are protected, and that there are opportunities for people who want to come here and do it the right way. Because we are a country of immigrants, and that's the core of who we are. But we are not going to stand by and allow you to hijack the privilege that we gave you to use it for your own personal gain, for your elections, and for your partisan party politics. Until the American people do that, because that's the only thing that these elected officials understand are votes. Until the American people come together, mobilize, and do this, I can tell you the sheriffs across this country are. And we had a great meeting today with both Congressman Scalise, Secretary, and the Attorney General. And I'm going to tell you, the sheriffs were ecstatic because we're being given back the opportunity to enforce these laws. We're getting reinforcement from the administration and President Trump that, yes, the rule of law will prevail. Until the laws are changed, they will be enforced.
All right, Bristol County Sheriff Tom Hodgson joining us live from New Orleans. The National Organization of Sheriffs is meeting down there. You heard today from the Attorney General and the Homeland Security. You heard Homeland Security was there, right? Is that as well?
The Secretary. Yes.
Yeah. And so what else is on the agenda down there?
Well, we've been having our committee meetings, of course, around not just immigration, but global affairs and governmental affairs yesterday. And we have a number of different seminars going on current issues, how people are, the legal aspects, current legal issues in the jails that are happening around the country, and new initiatives, new kinds of programs that different sheriffs are trying to, use to address some of the mental health problems. And it's and of course the value of having all these sheriffs here to talk about learning that there's common issues that sometimes you think are only in your region, but frankly are problems all over the country. And it sort of gives you the perspective that you need to come together on these things because it's bigger than perhaps sheriffs independently thought within their regions.
Sheriff Hodgson, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it as always. Keep fighting the fight. Fight the fight for us. We appreciate it.
We're going to.
All right, Sheriff Tom Hodgson, live from New Orleans. We're going to take a break. 508-996-0500 is the phone number. Your calls on this and whatever as we continue on in 1420 WBSM. We'll see you in just a moment.